when we spend time worrying about our fears, we're not doing what we could be doing or want to be doing. Like, so yeah, when we, like in that incident, if I had like gone down the track of just worrying about it, how I'm gonna actually deal with it, or how I'm gonna do with this class, and all these fears and worries that build up around certain stories we made, it would have just escalated the whole situation, and it wouldn't have turned out the way it did. So rather than putting so much energy into our worries and fears, if we put the energy into taking the first step we can take with whatever we need to do, the fear actually doesn't become so big anymore. Because when we talk about our fears, we make them bigger than they actually are. So let's say a fear comes up for us about, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job with my children, and then we go and share it with another person, and then they say to you, oh yeah, I also got those fears, and I also don't feel I'm doing a good enough job. And then we both sit there and make bigger stories, and then yeah, this will happen and that will happen. So, but if we think about it, the fear that initially came was made up by us. And yeah, so got this quick imagination like what's it called, a practice for us to do. So if you all imagine right now, there's a lion in the room, and really imagine like there's this big lion sitting over there. It's looking at us now. Obviously, as most of us would have had the know by now, not had the experience, but maybe know that, okay, a lion is something to be feared. Like if we face a real life lion in front of us, it's actually meant to make us run, or we think that we would be very afraid. But if you just imagine a lion sitting there, and then now if we all imagine a lion sitting there in the corner of us in the room, and then we start running and screaming and panicking, that wouldn't sit quite right. I mean, I'm imagining a lion sitting there right now, and I'm not scared of it because I know I made it up. I made it up using my imagination, using my thoughts. So in the same way, if you think about your fears, if you really, really think about a lot of these parenting fears we have, they're made up. And we might say, just as we made up that lion, and in the same way as we wouldn't now run away from our imaginary lion, in the same way, you don't need to run away from our imaginary fears we make up. So our fears are just as unreal as our imaginary lion. We make them up, we believe in them, we make stories around them, and then we make our life difficult through them. So it's really the experience I've had and many other people have had, that once you realize that our fears are really made up by our own thinking, we can drop them and we can live our life without them. We don't need them. We tell ourselves stories that don't match with the facts. So a lot of us actually, just you taking interest in like coming to this class today means you have an interest in doing the best for yourself and for your children and for your family. So the fact is that everybody is trying their best and doing their best and striving to do better or different or learn new. So those are the facts. But we tell ourselves these stories that we're not doing it right, or there must be a better way, and we lose sight that all of us have this inner wisdom as well in terms of how to parent our own children and what is the best way forward. We just need to put those fears away and replace them with creative thinking, allow our creativity to come out more rather than staying in those fearful states. We base these fears on very little evidence from the past. So somebody might say like, oh well, I know what will happen because this and this happened to me, and look what then I turned out like that, and I know if this and this happens to my children, then it will affect them for life. But you never know how of what will happen in the future. Basing things just on the past is really not a reliable source. And if you want to when we base things on the past too much, we recycle our experience, or we create the same experience again because we holding on to the past so much. And then yes, it does, often it looks like, oh okay, yeah, the same thing happened, look, see, whatever happened before happened again, because we've recycled our experience, because we're not allowing ourselves to move forward and use our creativity to actually create new experiences that don't include all those fears and limiting beliefs from the past. We can never predict how our kids might turn out. So whether you had those fears or you don't have those fears, they don't give you any control over how your kids might turn out. There's many examples of where parents have raised their children with extreme care and attention, but the children did not turn out to be the ideal adults they wanted them to be. Or even if you look at siblings, same parents raising a few siblings, they will all turn out different, although they've had a similar upbringing or from the same parenting style or whatever you want to call it. One sibling might be completely going that way and another one completely going that way. So you can have huge differences in how they turn out, because it all depends on how they've perceived the world and how their own thinking in the moment is affecting them. Children raised in the worst conditions have turned out to be exemplary adults and members of the society. So again, those fears that come up for us, that we might not provide everything we want to provide for our children, or we think they should have, or the way they should have it, or we want to protect them from having certain experiences in life. All those things are not justified fears, because many children grow up in the worst conditions you can imagine, and they turn out just fine. So I'm just trying to say like that the way we raise our children does not guarantee that our fears won't come through or they will come through. So it's really that fears can actually be not a great guide to move forward. If you like more tips on effortless parenting from the inside out and comprehensive training on how to make parenting fun, easy and effective, watch our free web class on coachsafia.com/gift.